Up next, we move to a different way of looking at questions. Where do they come from? How do you generate them? Why not crowdsource them? Working with Simon Peyton Jones, once a University College lecturer, University College London lecturer, then a Glasgow professor, and now chair of computing at school and principal researcher at Microsoft, we're helping him to create Project Quantum.
Good morning. I'm Simon Peyton Jones. I'm a researcher here at Microsoft's Research Lab in Cambridge, but I'm also chair of Computing at School, which is a grassroots organisation that's been at the epicenter of the transformation of the English national curriculum in computing.
I'm Miles Berry. I work at the University of Roehampton, training the next generation of outstanding teachers. I'm a board member of Computing at School and have played a part in some of these projects around transforming computer science education here.
So we're here to tell you about a rather exciting project, at least it got us excited, called Project Quantum, which is about assessment, formative assessment for learning. Now, we are both coming from computing space, but quantum applies absolutely to all subjects and in all parts of the world, which is why we're excited to have an opportunity to present here in Australia. So here's the story behind quantum. Every teacher must come to an opinion about whether their students are making progress. And they will do this in a number of ways. They will do it informally by just talking to the students. They'll set them project work and maybe mark that. But they will also probably set them tests and quizzes in some form or another. Now, for computing teachers, this is difficult because tests are not available. So what we find they're doing is they're making up tests, which is incredibly time-consuming and incredibly difficult to do. Even experts find it hard to make up good questions. And teachers who are not necessarily subject experts in computing find that even harder. Not only that, but then they have to mark those tests, and that's more work. And worst of all of this is being duplicated in every school across the land. This is completely nuts. The obvious thing we should do is to build a corpus of high-quality questions about computing, or indeed about other subjects, that can be shared by all teachers across the country or across the world. Not just this year, but next year. Not perhaps just in computing, but in other subjects as well. Doing so has a lot of other benefits, like particularly if teachers are tentative about the subject they're teaching, as they are in computing. This a body of questions incarnates the curriculum in a very concrete form, much more concrete, tangible, and actionable than a couple of pages of curriculum produced by a government. And so it helps teachers to know what to teach. So that's our goal. That's what Project Quantum is about. Let's build a corpus of high-quality questions that are available online, shared between everybody around the planet, and that can be done by freely available to students and to teachers. Now, Quantum at the moment is just about multiple-choice questions, which are, as Miles will be saying shortly, are much more insightful and helpful than I initially thought when I first got involved in this project. And in our platform, the students not only get to answer the question, they also get to give a short explanation about why they think this answer is the correct one, and that in turn can inform the teacher's judgment about what misconceptions that student has. The distinctive feature about quantum is that all this is crowdsourced. Traditionally, awarding organisations or question developers would pay experts to write questions, would field trial them, and end up with a few hundred expensive questions that they would then hold close to them. Quantum is turning that whole thing on its head by saying, let's crowdsource the questions, let's get the teachers themselves, or anybody else who cares to help, write the questions, and gift them to each other in a kind of gift economy setting. Now, this is a reasonable idea, except you might worry about quality. There is no point, indeed it would be counterproductive, simply to assemble a large pile of poor quality questions. So that is where these two gentlemen come in. Professor Rob Coe is a professor at Durham University, where he works at the Durham Centre for Evaluation and Monitoring. His entire business is valid assessment. Tim Oates is the Director of Assessment and Research and Development at Cambridge Assessment, which is a very big £100 million organisation that does nothing but assessment. Their interest is solely in valid assessment that measures whether students have actually learnt things and encourages them to learn the right things. They're not interested in computing per se at all, and they are both deeply involved in this project. So it has deep intellectual roots, this. But I want to say a little bit more about how we might actually measure quality for crowdsourced questions. Here's the idea. If you have data from tens or hundreds of thousands of students answering thousands of questions, it turns out that you can solve a kind of statistical simultaneous equation to both discover how strong each student is and discover how hard each question is and how much that question has discriminating power. That is, how much it sorts out the strong students from the weak ones. This is pretty standard in assessment expertise land, rash analysis, but it was new to me and Miles when we first came across it. And moreover, we're going to provide this evidence as per question feedback to the question author so that they can improve their question, and also to teachers or others who are accumulating quizzes to give to students. They'll have an evidence-based quality metrics for each question. Just to give you an intuitive idea of what these kind of metrics might look like, here is one of our first stabs at it. So here's the question on the left. It's a question in the math domain, multiple choice question. On the right, the horizontal axis is meant to be student ability, low on the left, high on the right, and the vertical axis is the percentage of students who answered that particular question. So with that answer, so the red stuff is all the students who answered A, and you can see that weak students answered A, quite a lot of A's, and strong students, they basically didn't answer A at all. The purple answer is actually the right one, and it's answered by the strong students all get it, and very few of the weak students do. So this is a question with good discriminating power. If the question had weak discriminating power, those lines would all be horizontal. So that's the kind of per question feedback we're hoping to get. So that's the basic idea, and we're turning it into reality. So we partnered with a small company called Diagnostic Questions who make a platform very suitable for our purposes. We have gathered so far about 5,000 computing questions alongside the 20 to 25,000 that Diagnostic Questions already have for maths. The coverage both primary and secondary level, though it could easily extend to university if we had questions for it. It covers the range of the subject: computer science, programming, digital literacy, information technology, but it's all focused around low-stakes diagnostic assessment. Think of it as a sort of like a medical thermometer to take the temperature of your students, not a summative assessment to hit them with a stick to say, have you passed this course or not? Think of it as like a quiz you might do at the end of the week to see whether your students have understood or not. All the questions are meant to be available to all of the students, all of the time. If your students ace your test by having done 2,000 questions in their spare time, good for them. They are working hard and they deserve accolades, not being told they're cheating. And finally, very importantly, all of the quantum corpus of questions is available under Creative Commons license. It will be free forever to everybody. And moreover, using the platform to do this will be free forever. So the ethos of the entire project is of an open source software project in which people give their contribution in exchange for receiving all the good things that other people have given. It is not an intellectual property, how are we going to monetize this story?